Ladies and gentlemen, your enemy is not a person, it's a principle. Until you identify the true root of opposition, you'll waste energy fighting faces instead of forces. One of the most dangerous misconceptions in life is to believe that your battle is against people. It is not. The truth is, human faces are often just the carriers of unseen principles. These principles are invisible patterns, ideas, mentalities, and spiritual forces that operate behind the scenes. If you fail to discern this, you will be boxing shadows, hitting the air, and calling it warfare. You must learn that not every opposition is worth your response, because not every attack is about the attacker. Some attacks are assignments, disguised opportunities to prove your maturity and position your growth. There are 4 silent but deadly ways to take down your enemies, and none of them involve shouting, striving, or showing off. The first way is by mastering your mind. Your mind is the control tower of your destiny. If your enemy can agitate your thoughts, they don't need to lift a finger to defeat you. You'll self-destruct. So you must become a disciplined thinker. Learn to filter thoughts that try to plant fear, anger, envy, or revenge. And don't let your enemy provoke you into becoming like them. When your enemy knows they can't reach your mind, they lose their power. Peace, then, becomes your most violent weapon. Why? Because nothing frustrates a hateful enemy more than a peaceful spirit. That's the paradox of power. Your calm is your counterattack. The second way is through character. Character is silent, but it speaks louder than arguments. When people lie about you, try to scandalize your name, or throw mud on your image, don't answer them with your mouth. Answer with your life. Outlive the lie. Outshine the darkness. If you stay consistent in integrity, you will expose their chaos by contrast. And here's the secret. When you respond to accusations with excellence, you don't just protect your name, you disarm theirs. Every time you choose character over clapping back, you are dismantling the power of offense and building an unshakable legacy. Let your actions do the speaking. Let your fruit answer your critics. They can't argue with your harvest. The third silent weapon is elevation. When eagles fly, they go to heights where snakes can't breathe. That's the level you must live on. Don't waste your wings wrestling in the dirt with chickens. Rise, grow, expand. Develop yourself to the point where your success suffocates your enemy's agenda. Success is the sound of victory without noise. When you elevate your value, your vision, your voice, you become unreachable to petty warfare. You don't fight to prove yourself. You evolve until they can't figure you out. Every time you go higher, you cancel their access. That's why you must never stop growing. The higher you go, the fewer enemies can follow. They don't need your revenge. They need to watch your rise. The fourth way is by guarding your emotions. Many people lose not because they lack power, but because they lack control. If your enemy knows what button to press to make you explode, then your strength is a trap. True strength is self-restraint. The man who can control his spirit is mightier than the one who can take a city. Don't let your emotions become weapons in the hands of your opposition. Manage your anger, govern your grief. Don't let bitterness become your brand. When you learn how to feel deeply but respond wisely, you become a silent assassin in the realm of warfare. Emotions are meant to serve you, not rule you. If you stay in command of your soul, you win battles before they begin. So, how do you take down your enemies without lifting your voice? You think higher, live better, rise above and rule within. You silence them with the sound of your growth. You confuse them with the consistency of your character. You wear peace like a crown and walk away from drama like royalty. You don't prove them wrong by fighting back. You prove them wrong by moving forward. Every day you stay focused, you are defeating something. Every time you pray instead of panic, you are pushing back darkness. And every time you choose discipline over destruction, you are taking down an enemy without saying a word. That is power. That is dominion. That is how kings and queens fight. quietly, strategically, victorious. We live in a world that celebrates noise. The loudest voice in the room often gets the spotlight. But real power doesn't perform for applause. It moves in silence. You must understand, noise attracts attention, but wisdom works quietly behind closed doors. The battles that shift history are never broadcasted in public. They're won in private places. In your prayer room, in your thought life, in your midnight wrestles with God. That's where victory is born. Your enemy wants you loud, reactive, impulsive, because noise exposes strategy. Noise reveals your hand. But silence is sacred. Silence is surgical. Silence is power under control. It means you're not driven by the need to be seen. You're guided by the need to be effective. When you shout, you give away your position. But when you move in silence, you take territory before anyone knows you were there. Some of the most legendary victories in life come from the discipline of holding your peace. Let them think you're not doing anything. Let them believe you're stagnant. That's all right. Because while they're busy watching your silence, you're building strength. While they're running their mouths, you're running your race. By the time they notice, it's already done. You've already ascended. You've already won. Even God, in his greatest demonstration of victory, didn't shout. He was silent. When Jesus stood before his accusers, he didn't defend himself. Why? Because when your identity is rooted in divine purpose, you don't have to prove anything. You let your fruit speak. You let your cross speak. And eventually, your resurrection will do all the talking. So be strategic. Don't waste your oil trying to convince dry people. Don't waste your grace arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you. Fight smart. Move quietly. Build privately. Plan secretly. Then strike suddenly. That's how true warriors win. Not with volume, but with vision. Not with rage, but with results. Because at the end of the day, the loudest one in the room isn't the most powerful. The one who didn't say a word, but still walked away with the crown, that's the real king. That's the real queen. That's you. Every external war is just a reflection of an internal conflict. The real battlefield is not out there, it's in here. Before you can conquer enemies around you, you must conquer the enemy within you. Because hear this, if you haven't conquered your own spirit, you'll always be a slave to someone else's actions. Let's talk truth. You'll never have dominion over life if anger still rules your mood, if fear still controls your decisions, or if insecurity still dictates your direction. That's not warfare. That's bondage. You can have a crown on your head and still be in chains if your inner world is in chaos. People spend years building careers, brands, titles, empires, but they lose the war in their mind. They're strategic on the outside, but broken on the inside. They post victories publicly while bleeding privately. Why? Because they never realized that destiny doesn't begin on stages or platforms. It begins in silence, in solitude, in the secret place where nobody's watching but God and your shadow. You must master yourself before you manage your mission. Can you be disciplined when nobody's clapping? Can you be faithful when no one sees your seed? Can you hold your peace when your flesh wants to explode? That's the real warfare. Not with people, not with politics, but with you. Victory is internal first. Before David faced Goliath, he had to face rejection. Before Joseph wore a robe of royalty, he had to overcome betrayal. And before Jesus wore a crown of glory, he conquered temptation in the wilderness. Every real promotion comes after a private test. So ask yourself, What in me still gives my enemy access? Is it my pride, my impatience, my need to prove myself? Because the one who masters his inner world becomes unshakable in the outer one. That's why your enemy fears your healing. Your wholeness is a threat. Because once you've tamed your spirit, there's nothing left for them to manipulate. Your destiny is too important to be led by emotion. You were born to rule, but you can't rule outwardly if you're still raging inwardly. So make peace with your past. Discipline your desires. Fortify your focus. And become a fortress that no enemy can enter. When your spirit is steady, your strategy becomes unstoppable. That's when you're dangerous. That's when you win. There is a difference between reaction and response, and an even greater difference between response and rise. Reaction is raw, it's emotional. Response is calculated, it's intentional. But rising is spiritual. It's the realm where you no longer operate on the level of your opposition. See, when you react to your enemy, you give them confirmation that they still matter. Your reaction says, you still have access to my peace. Your reaction gives them free rent in your head. But when you rise above them, when you don't flinch, don't pause, don't clap back, you've declared a silent war and you're already winning it. Reaction is proof of their power over you. Response is strategy, but silence is sovereignty. Silence says, I've outgrown this battlefield. It says, I'm not here to argue, I'm here to ascend. Because your true revenge is not payback, it's progress. And here's the key. When you keep rising, your enemies eventually lose sight of you. They were prepared for a fight, but not for your flight. They were ready to argue, but they weren't ready to watch you rise, succeed, evolve, and become untouchable. That's the reason elevation is so powerful. It changes the rules of engagement. When you rise, you no longer need to respond because your results are loud enough. You don't attend every argument you're invited to. You don't stoop to every insult thrown at you. Why? Because kings don't debate with jesters. Eagles don't explain their flight to pigeons. And warriors don't pause to prove. They press. Listen closely. You were not designed to fight low battles. You were created to govern, to reign, to lead. And that means every time you walk away from nonsense, you walk into your next level. Every time you refuse to respond to foolishness, you prove that your throne is more valuable than their trigger. Let them talk. Let them throw shade. Let them try to pull you into the pit. But you're climbing. You're focused. You're becoming. You're rising. And the higher you go, the quieter it gets. That's not loneliness. It's royalty. There is no revenge like rising. No clap back louder than character. No counterattack more devastating than destiny fulfilled. Let them throw their stones. Let them plot. Let them lie. Let them scheme. But while they're busy digging ditches, you're building ladders. Because when you grow, they can't reach you. When you ascend, they can't attack you. When you evolve, they lose their grip. You must understand, your greatest warfare is not in proving who you are, but in becoming who you were born to be. That's why growth is lethal to your enemies. They built weapons for the old you. They studied your past patterns. They rehearsed how to trigger you. But they didn't prepare for your transformation. They didn't expect you to outgrow the battlefield. Elevation is not just movement. It's metamorphosis. When you go higher, you don't just shift your level. You change your language, your logic, your lens. You stop explaining, stop defending, stop trying to convince small minds to understand a big vision. You see, Snakes don't fly. Petty people don't soar. And gossip can't breathe in high altitudes. The higher you go, the clearer the air, the stronger your vision, the quieter the noise. That's why your enemy fears your growth, because every inch you rise exposes their limitation. You don't need to drag them down. You just need to rise up. They will fall by default. And here's the secret. Elevation comes from alignment. Stay rooted in purpose. Stay submitted to the process. Stay loyal to the throne you were designed for. Because when you rise by integrity, no enemy can pull you down. When God lifts you, no lie can limit you. So stop wrestling in the mud. Don't trade your crown for a comment. Don't fight shadows. Climb mountains. You were born to rule from a higher place. You were born to sit in heavenly places, not roll in earthly drama. Let this be your final word to the enemy. I won't fight you. I'll outgrow you. Because when you rise, you make them irrelevant. You will never have authority over what you can't control within. The battlefield doesn't start with your enemy. It starts with your energy. If your emotions are wild, your strategy will always be weak. That's why the wisest warriors aren't the strongest, they're the calmest. Because strength without self-control is just chaos with muscles. Listen to me. Control your heart, and you control the game. When the enemy can manipulate your mood, they don't need to touch your crown. They'll make you throw it down. Anger, offense, pride. These are emotional landmines planted to detour kings from their assignment. And if you keep stepping on them, you'll keep self-destructing right before your breakthrough. Your emotions are meant to inform you, not lead you. You can feel them, but don't let them steer your decisions. That's why Scripture says, be angry, but sin not. It never said you wouldn't feel it. It said you must master it. Because if you don't command your emotions will command your destiny. And here's the real wisdom. Emotional maturity is spiritual warfare. When you remain stable under attack, you disarm the very thing that was sent to destroy you. You win battles not just by striking, but by standing unshaken, unbothered, unbreakable. Sometimes the most strategic move is not a response, but a restraint. Look at Jesus, betrayed, beaten, mocked. He had power to call down angels, but he didn't. Why? Because when you've already seen the end from the beginning, you don't let temporary pain provoke permanent mistakes. That's mastery. That's divine composure. So protect your peace like it's a sword. Guard your emotions like they hold the keys to your future. Because they do. And when the storm comes, don't flinch. When the insult flies, don't react. When the temptation rises, don't trade your purpose for relief. Stay steady, stay sharp, stay royal. Because the one who rules their own spirit is more powerful than the one who takes a city. So I leave you with this truth. Your greatest battles will not be fought with swords or noise, but with wisdom, restraint, and elevation. You don't need to swing wildly to win. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to react to prove your strength. You were never called to fight like them. You were born to rule above them. The throne does not argue with threats. The crown does not chase critics. And destiny does not bow to distraction. Your silence is not weakness, it is strategy. Your stillness is not surrender, it is positioning. And your peace is not passivity, it is power under control. Every enemy sent against you is not an obstacle, it's a measurement. A divine test to see if you are ready for the next dimension of dominion. And the ones who pass are not the loudest, Not the flashiest, not the most emotional, but the most disciplined, discerning, and determined. So master yourself and you'll master the moment. Rise above the noise and you'll outlive the attack. Grow beyond the reach of your enemies, and their weapons will turn into your footstools. And remember, true vengeance is not in retaliation. It is in resurrection. Every time you rise, you testify. Every time you elevate, you execute judgment. And every time you grow, you execute judgment. And every time you grow, you prove that nothing sent to bury you. Now, walk in silence, but carry thunder. Move in peace, but possess fire. And reign, not with violence, but with vision.